Alright guys, so we got a D16Y8 here, and we're going to be removing the intake manifold. As you can see, it says Skunk Pro. It's not, it's a Skunk style intake manifold, so it's not the actual thing. It's a knockoff. It's an imitation. Anyway, so the problem I'm having is I have a coolant leak between where the intake manifold and the head meets, and I confirmed it by viewing some drops leaking from this side of the intake manifold, so essentially where the ports for the coolant are. I saw that just dripping away as the car was running. I was losing a pretty good amount of coolant, so it's something that I needed to get fixed sooner rather than later. And for this job, you'll need 12 millimeter open-ended wrench, a deep socket 12 millimeter socket, and a couple of pliers, and yeah, that's it. By a couple of pliers, I mean, like, if you have that fancy what is it, like a 120 degree, you know, angled plier where you can get into the tough to reach spots. But what we're going to be removing is a total of let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7 12 millimeter nuts that are going to be holding the intake manifold to the head of the motor. So there's going to be one down here at the corner there. There's going to be 2 up here, another 2 right there, and then the last one is hidden down there. So it is it's a big mirror. So it's the same on this side, same on this side, and right at the middle, I don't think you'll be able to see it, but yeah, it's right there. There's another 12 millimeter hidden in there. That one's a little tougher to get to, but last time I put it in, I stuck my hand in under here, so that's how I got access to it. The fuel rail's got to come off. I'm going to try to do it without disconnecting the fuel line. No particular reason, I just don't want to have fuel spilling everywhere, but you know, you could disconnect the fuel line. If I have to, we'll go over the tool you need for it. What I have to, you know, without a doubt disconnect are the vacuum lines. So this one up here, this one up here. I already went ahead and just undid the throttle cable from the assembly here. That was fairly easy. I'm sure most of you guys know how to do that pretty easy. And the brake booster vacuum line's got to be removed. What else? Oh, if you guys need to know, this vacuum line, you follow it, goes to the thermostat housing. Thermostat housing. So that's where that's hooked up to. And then the thermostat housing has a secondary vacuum into the intake manifold. I'm sorry, the intake, just a regular intake. All right. This vacuum line up here goes to the fuel pressure regulator. That vacuum line there routes to the brake booster. This vacuum line back here is teed off or blocked off. And the last vacuum line is, or that's not a vacuum line, sorry, it's a the coolant feed vacuum line into the throttle body here. So that's one there. The other one, see if I can see it. Alright, I can't really see it, but it is right here. This is the coolant return line, and that I wish I could show you. The coolant, alright, so the coolant feed goes to the throttle body. And the throttle body I'll just explain it. You'll probably see it once I'm doing it. But the throttle body has a secondary passage that goes into one port on the IECV, and the IECV has a coolant return line, and that return line goes back to the block. And it's hard to show you here, but that's the other hose at the bottom I was showing you there. So all these things need to come off, and then I can remove this entire thing out of the way. Of course, throttle cable bracket's gonna come off as well. That's a 10 millimeter. It's fairly easy. Or if you don't have a 10 millimeter, you could just use the 12 millimeter, loosen this and pull that out the way. All right, so also if you guys are having any vacuum leaks, if you buy one of these, 1, 2, 3 holes, which sensor built might go in there. That's a huge vacuum leak port right there. I found out the hard way. That's a vacuum leak. You know, this one back here obviously is a vacuum leak. And there's another one that I'll be able to show you once I remove this. So, all right, let's get started.
So this shouldn't be like that. If you have an injector seal that's chewed up like that, you're gonna have a vacuum leak. Pretty sure I have a vacuum leak somewhere. Luckily I have a brand new kit, so I'll be redoing those. This is slightly ripped up here as well. This one is intact, and then this one, this one's still in the this one actually, well, the piece just fell off. This I'm just going to throw it off to the side. So again, just to recap, what I removed here was these are the two 10mm nuts that hold on to the brackets here onto the intake manifold. I removed a 10mm nut that held the fuel injector connector. And up here, what was up here? The valve, some sort of a valve. Probably for the vapors, for the fuel pressure regulator, because this is where the fuel pressure regulator, the purge valve, will go to. Anyway, so just throw that to the side. Anywhere that you're not going to be unnecessarily bending that fuel line. It's a really short distance. It's like barely a foot. All right. Since we're here, probably throw this back on top here. And what we're going to tackle right now is the 12mm nut down here. So,
Alright, so here I'm using the Permatex water pump and thermostat housing gasket maker. When I bought the intake manifold, I think it was either that or the gasket itself. One of those two things came with some off-brand gasket maker, and I think that was part of the issue with why I had the coolant leak, and or because I only applied the gasket maker to one side of the gasket, even though I read on many forums and several different posts online that there was no need to apply any gasket maker. I went ahead and did so anyway because I was trying to avoid, having to redo this whole job. And as you can see, I went ahead and reapplied it to both sides, and I put a pretty generous amount, but generous not to the point where it's going to spill into the intake ports.